You know, I haven't met anybody who has served in Vietnam that's ever told me that they, during the course of a firefight, that they haven't had the shit scared out of them, you know? But it's been my faith that's carried me through that.
When I was in the military, I was in charge of people's lives. I went to Afghanistan and I saw a few things that altered my mind state, altered my life.
Well, I was really hoping to get away because we both have PTSD, and he puts up with a lot from me, and I wanted to meet other couples and just learn some new strategies and like strengthen our relationship, because it takes a lot out of you dealing with the trauma, dealing with the stigma. So I really just wanted to learn some new techniques, meet new people, and you know, maybe we can share something with someone else that works for them and learn something new that can work for us.
We've come a long way from when I got out of the military in 1980 to where we are now. It's sort of more open and people more talking about it. We have a lot of different cultures at this retreat. We have Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans, Gulf, the first Gulf War. We got Afghanistan and Iraq. We got peacetime veterans. It's great to see seeing the older generation taking the younger generation under their wings and sharing that experience.
I was in a jet crash when I was in the Marine Corps. I broke my back. My friend died in the crash. A lot of things happened as a result, as all of you know.
For the people that attend the retreat, my hope would be that more than anything, they leave knowing they're not alone. They leave with some tools they can use from the moment, driving away, sleeping in their bunks overnight before they leave, that they have some tools they can use to actually begin to move forward, that this is just the beginning of something, that they leave here and they move forward, whether it's more retreats, whether it's getting together with some new friends, whether it's reaching out to some people that they already have in their network, they haven't reached out before, but that this is kind of a first step or another step in their journey that they keep moving forward towards healing.
And you don't have to be in the military to suffer post-traumatic stress. It could be a car accident, you could a loss of somebody, a child maybe died. It could be a whole, so it's not just a military issue. It's an issue for everybody in our community.
I had a wonderful time here. The best thing for me here this weekend was my interaction with other people who have had the same type of problems that I have had because of their PTSD.
I appreciate those shared experiences where it touches people and there's like a level of understanding.
You meet people, you make friends, you make brothers in the military, and then you try your damnedest to stay as close as possible, but you do have to go into things that are going to be comfortable, not pushed on you, but let you do it at your own pace, whatever it may be, and you meet new people.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure coming and meeting fellow veterans and seeing Bill and his wife, like, they're wonderful.
You know, as a speaker, you'll avoid places you don't want to be. You'll avoid places you don't think you're making an impact. I live in Indiana. This is a long way to come. I wouldn't come here if I didn't think it was making a difference. I wouldn't come here if I didn't think Project New Hope was a good steward of the money they're given, especially as a nonprofit. I wouldn't come if I didn't think they didn't follow up with their veterans. I wouldn't come if I didn't think it was run well. And it's all of those. And it's a real honor to be able to come here with Project New Hope and help these veterans.
Good morning. My name is Bill Moore. I am your host for the Project New Hope Veterans Hour. Today we have a special guest, Consuelo Bulawan Jessop of North Providence, Rhode Island. She was enjoying her life as a successful, career-focused woman when she reconnected with her first love, Chris, who had just retired from the Army after serving 3 tours in Iraq. The couple married in 2011 and made plans for a beautiful life together. But within the first few years of their marriage, the many layers of Chris' combat experiences began to surface, and the charismatic man Consuelo once knew him to be was struggling with night terrors, unexplained vomiting, debilitating headaches, and depression. Consuelo, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
Great. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself? You were raised in a military family. What was that like?
It was pretty amazing. It was awesome. My parents were just incredible. My mother was the quintessential caregiver, and I learned a lot from her. On this journey, I refer to a lot of what she did as my father's spouse and caregiver, and also a parent. I grew up in a strict household, but it was full of love. Most military households are kind of strict, but it was filled with love and respect. And I was very grateful for the parents that I have.
Great. How did you meet Chris?
That's funny. Well, we were 5 and 6 years old. My husband had family that lived in my neighborhood, and he would come and visit, and we became friends. And probably, I would say we were about 14 and 15 when we began to date. And we were together close to 8 years before, you know, life experiences took over, and we kind of went our separate ways to live our lives. And back in 2010, we reconnected, and a year later, we were married.
Wow. So when did Chris's symptoms, after you got married, when did those symptoms first appear in your marriage?
Well, it was probably 3 years after we were married, I started to see Chris beginning to struggle. But there were signs even before we were married that he was having some issues. He was forthright and honest before we were married about his PTSD, but as time went on, he was diagnosed with a TBI, his night terrors. A lot of it he tried to keep from me, but then as time went by, you notice things, and you've got to ask those questions. Are you okay? Do you feel okay? And as those questions were answered, it became apparent that he needed more help at home, and also with his appointments with the VA.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. I know you're currently employed as a Dole Fellow. Consuelo and I, we met at a caregivers retreat that Project New Hope hosted.
Yep.
And it was great meeting you. Can you explain what your job is about with being an Elizabeth Dole Fellow?
Being an Elizabeth Dole Fellow, it's not a paid employment, it's volunteer. And after going to your retreat with Project New Hope, which was my first retreat, found out through the VA, I was able to meet other Dole Fellows, but caregivers as a whole. And it was impactful in the sense that I didn't realize how much I had isolated, how much I didn't know as far as helping my husband. And with Project New Hope, what you did, hosting that retreat and bringing us all together, I was able to meet some Dole Fellows, and they are some incredible women that inspired me, and I wanted to be a part of that family.
Great. You said, can you tell us some circumstances for you to retire? So you retired and then you became the caregiver.
Yeah. When I chose to retire, it was in 2015. Chris was really struggling. I had noticed when I came home from work, he was in the same place I left him when I went to work. So he was isolating most of the days. He wasn't communicating with his family. He just wasn't engaging. And it really concerned me that my husband just was happy to sit there and waste away. So deciding to leave my employment, it was a choice of, do I lose my job or do I lose my husband? And the choice was really clear. It was time to say goodbye to my career and introduce myself into this new world and help my husband as best as I could.
Were you successful working with the VA in relation to your husband and his needs?
Yes. I feel that I have a very good relationship with the VA. My husband has a great team of doctors that have been helpful, and they include me in his care, which sometimes doesn't happen so often. But I'm grateful that they will listen to what I have to say. They appreciate my input. And, there have been challenges, as with everything, even in civilian health care, they say you have to be your own advocate. And considering my husband had a hard time engaging and sharing what he was feeling and how he was feeling, that's when it was important for me to be able to speak for him and give them the information that they needed in order to better treat him.
Yeah, and that's true because my wife, as you know, my wife Donna.
Your lovely Donna,
and, as a veteran here, we tend to keep things inside. Chris and I, or other veterans that we come in contact with, will open up to one another and share the most intimate details, but we won't share anything with our life partner. And my wife always told me, you can help everybody but yourself.
Yes.
And that was a true statement.
And I think that's true for many of you.
Absolutely. And it was hard for me to open up and say, I need some help here, or to communicate with her. That was the hardest part. So it's just, I wanted to throw that out there.
Right.
Because you're not alone, and probably a lot of people watching this are probably going through the same thing here. And I think the best thing I did was to say, I need the help here, and we got to open up this line of communication, because it doesn't, we sit there and we self-medicate. We're hooked on our Xboxes or playing the video games all day long, or we're not interacting with our family anymore. I mean, it's a lonely place to be.
Absolutely.
And in the short time that I've known you and Chris, I've seen that transition from Chris when I first met him to now. He's more outgoing, but we still have our struggles. We have our good days and we have our bad days.
Absolutely.
We have our triggers, but we're better apt to utilize the tools that we've been given to move on there. But so it's the next one I had a question was, when did you realize you were more than a wife of a soldier? You were a caregiver.
It came in stages. Now, I remember when I first entered the caregiver program, they said, welcome, and you're a caregiver to your husband. That didn't make sense to me. I'm a spouse. I'm a wife. You're supposed to love and care for your spouse. And then as time went by, and not until Project New Hope did I realize that I had equals out there. There were other women or husbands or even family members, children, caring for their veteran, and that in itself just opened a whole new world to me. And then as time went by, hearing their stories and having it resonate with my own, I guess that was when realizing I was a caregiver and actually beginning to accept my role as a caregiver, separate from being a spouse, was really impactful, and it meant a lot to be able to have those people to bounce things off of, yourself included, Bill.
Yeah, what I saw up there when we did the first retreat,
wasn't that great? A group of strangers.
It was a group of strangers. It was fantastic, and I did have a Dole fellow came and she helped me put together our first caregivers retreat.
Emery, yes.
Emery, all right. And then we did the caregivers retreat last year, and we're doing another one this year in July up at Old Orchard Beach, Maine for a week.
Yes.
And it was great because at these events here, when we do like our family retreats, the veterans will always connect with one another. The children, they'll always connect with other children. They'll just take off and, run around and do everything. But the spouses come, and they're not alone anymore, because now they're meeting other spouses, other caregivers, going through the same thing, where you might feel, hey, I'm in Rhode Island, or I'm in Connecticut, or I'm up in Maine here, and I got no resources. But now you come to a retreat here, you connected with other caregivers, and now you guys have a network of support. And I know you guys got a strong network for the girls and the spouses that came to the caregivers retreat. This will be our third year, and that's just growing. That base is just growing here. So I'm really looking forward to having this one here in July. Absolutely. When did you first learn about the Elizabeth Dole Foundation?
At my very first retreat with Project New Hope, because there were other Dole Fellows there, and it was mentioned, and I wanted to know more. And then shortly after, within the next year, learning more, I was actually encouraged to apply. And I did this past September 2018, and I was accepted in January.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It was a good choice.
Thank you.
Good choice. What are some of the goals you hope to achieve as a Dole Fellow?
Some of the goals I'd like to achieve as a Dole Fellow is to take a look at more different types of therapies, holistic therapies, something that can work with the body internally. There are some people that will appreciate the traditional going to counseling, maybe medication to help with their situation. But then there are people that don't want to share.
Right, we all have different vices, what works,
Right.
what doesn't work.
Right, and I think to be able to introduce some holistic therapies into the mix might broaden the spectrum of how to treat caregivers and veterans, where it's not just from a pill.
Right, absolutely. I agree with that, because as you know, we're very big in the wellness aspect
Absolutely,
of it.
yes.
And we had I think it was it last year we had the caregivers retreat, and one of the caregivers went home with a horse.
That was the very first
that was the first retreat, right?
Yes,
Right.
that was amazing.
Yeah, and so what we try to do, at the retreats, maybe you can just elaborate a little bit here. What we try to offer up there. I mean, we do bring in a guest speaker.
Yes, you do.
We do have the horse therapy, which everybody gravitates over to those beautiful horses over there.
And Jen is
ponies.
fantastic at
Jen
what
is
she does.
Fantastic. Well, we go out fishing. We with Captain Sean, a
Yep.
Marine Corps veteran, and when we met Sean there, I think Sean was looking for something as well. And he's just a great advocate for the program. And then we did the harbor cruise.
Yep.
And then
That was a lot of fun.
that was a lot of fun, and of course we're right up the street from Old Orchard Beach, the pier and everything else there.
Yep.
But just seeing you guys connect, and something new this year is where I don't know if we had Juan come in offering the nutrition, because I think the nutrition is very important.
I think that's huge.
A lot of us veterans, we carry it right here, and I think with the proper nutrition and then the wellness aspect, whether, we have the reflexology,
Yes.
the Reiki, the
Yep.
massage, acupuncture. So
Acupuncture,
I think
too.
it's a whole thing here. And as a veteran, we're starting to see the VA now saying, we're going to offer acupuncture.
Right.
Well, because a pill is not the answer. A pill,
Absolutely.
It's just disguising what's going on. It takes over our lives. And, I like the mindful meditation. I like the breathing exercises to calm my brain.
Me too.
When I was in treatment, and Chris and many other veterans out there, our minds are racing. And boy, I hit that pillow at night, I'm gone.
Yep.
And it's the tools that we're learning, and we learn as we
Absolutely.
go. And then the tools you're learning at with the Dole as a fellow.
Yes.
You can bring that back to your community, because I know you're very active. I see you on social media a lot, and but you're doing a great job with that.
Thank you.
So we just touched on the alternative therapies and why, because I think it's more therapeutic for the whole family you can walk with your spouse and your child in the woods, and that's a holistic thing, walking, meditation and stuff.
Right.
So you were announced as a Dole Fellow at the end of February. Can you share with us some of the things you've done, and what are you doing?
Well, some of the things that I've done, I actually reached out to, it's called Beechwood Center for Wellbeing. It's equine therapy.
Okay.
But this equine therapy is done, it's a little different than the traditional equine therapy. She has an evidence-based study that her clients, in a shorter period of time than traditional therapies, she can treat PTSD, anxiety, depression, loss, and her methodology that she uses in her therapies are actually being studied by Brown University.
Wow. And is it some of the things that Jen offers at the retreats, or
Different.
Different, okay.
Different. It's a lot of meditation.
Okay.
The horses are there with you. And the funny thing is, the horses are more of a support mechanism
Right.
as you're meditating and going through your stages of whatever you're dealing with. I actually just started sessions with her, and she gives you a real incredible grounding effect, and it lasts. But as with everything else, you need to continue on with it. So as I go through my therapy sessions with her, hopefully at the end, I can produce my own statements as far as my experience with Lynn Phillips.
Now, how can other maybe caregivers in your home state, how can they get involved with that program? Would you be making a referral for them, or do you?
I've reached out to the VA. I've
Okay.
passed on that information. I'll be meeting with the VA next month to give a quick speech on the Dole Foundation and what I do. And it's their community task force. So I'll bring that information forward, and hopefully they will, in turn find the caregivers to refer to. And she's also opened her program to not only treat military caregivers, but military children as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's huge right there. So, Consuelo, for the viewers watching, what are some of the signs that maybe a military veteran or caregiver would pop out at us and say, hey?
Okay, some of the signs that you may be a caregiver, military caregiver to a service member or veteran is you're managing their medications, you're organizing their appointments, just their activities of daily living, you're assisting, you're helping with emotional support. Me personally, I am responsible for all the household chores, the cooking, the driving, his medical appointments, keeping track of his medications, and then when he has his PTSD or his TBI is triggered, he goes through bouts of vomiting. So dealing with that, and I can't even begin to tell you how awful that is to not only see, but to know that he's really struggling, and your hands are kind of tied. So you just have to be there. Memory help, advocating for their treatment care, monitoring issues or triggers that could, make a good day a horrible day, and so forth. And I also brought a card, so you'll be able to pop that up.
Okay, great.
For your viewers.
Yep, absolutely. What are some of the resources that the Elizabeth Dole Foundation offers? Is there a website that people can go to?
Yes, www.elizabethdolefoundation.org. And I would also highly encourage to reach out to their local VA. And that's where they can find out, they can reach out and get some information on the caregiver program. And that's www.vacaregiver.org. Nope, I got that wrong. www.caregiverva.gov.
Okay. All right. So that's good. So we'll put these up on the screen as well so our viewers can see them. Is there anything else that you want to add before we close here that maybe we didn't have a chance to talk about? Or?
Yeah, if you're a caregiver, you need to find other caregivers. Not until I found other caregivers did I realize how important they were in my days and how I care for my husband. And it's really nice to bounce things off, especially when you're in the midst of a struggle, in that type of day, to be able to reach out to someone that completely gets it and encourages you to keep going. Right. And really, you've got to find your tribe within the caregiver community, because at the end of the day, when those struggles do come about, they're your best support system.
Right. With the social media like Facebook, I know, isn't there a page for caregivers, like a private page? I know we had one with the caregivers that came to the P&H Caregivers Retreat. We created a page where you caregivers can go in there. It's free. It's not public. It's a private page here. Can you elaborate? Do you utilize that at all, or?
Well, there's a private page within the Dole Foundation. Okay. We utilize that for the Dole Fellows. All right. The Red Cross actually has a fellow caregiver page.
Oh, good.
I'm not sure if it's private.
All right.
I really can't elaborate on that. I have to find out for you. But there are so many different avenues out there today that weren't there a decade ago when I started this journey. So it's really come, and I don't want to say full circle because there's still more to do. But I think as time goes by, the progress they've made so far isn't pretty incredible, I think, and with the help of organizations like yourself and others that are out there, I think it will encompass.
There's hope.
Yeah.
There's hope.
There's more than hope.
Right.
There's understanding now too.
Great. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming in, and
thank you,
I
Bill.
appreciate you. You did a fantastic job. I know you're a little bit nervous, but you did great. And I want to thank the viewers for tuning in. And
Thank you.
we will put up on our, at the end of the show here, we'll have the picture of our retreat flyer for our
Wonderful.
July caregivers retreat.
I highly recommend it.
Right, and we hope to have a lot of new people coming in. Everything is included, it's free of charge. The only thing we don't pay for is transportation to and from the retreat, but it's up in beautiful Old Orchard Beach, and
It's a perfect place to rest, reset, and rejuvenate.
absolutely, I couldn't say it any better. So I just want to thank our viewers for tuning in to the Project New Hope Veterans Hour, and we'll see you around. Have a good day.